Hello and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and I'm joined as always by racing broadcaster and journalist Paul Auster, and we're going to be taking a look at our second part of York's Ebor Festival and days 3 and 4. We are recording this one anti-post, aren't we, Paul? So we don't have the full declarations for these guys yet, but we've got a pretty good idea. So hopefully we don't bump into too many horses that get scratched, as they say. But we'll start off first by just doing a quick weather check for days 3 and 4. Currently, the weather, I mean, sometimes the weather can be less predictable than the runners, can't it? But two really beautiful days racing. So you're looking at 21, 22 degrees in York and a lot of sunshine around on both Friday and Saturday. So hopefully the course will be glowing and splendid, and I'm sure everyone will be dressed beautifully. So really looking forward to seeing that. I really wish I was going this year, but it hasn't quite worked out. But I know when I'm seeing it on the TV, I'm going to be incredibly jealous of everyone that's there in the beautiful sunshine. So two good days of weather means that ground is probably going to stay good to firm. So it's probably there. That's the sort of ground you want to be checking that the horses will act on when you're making your selections for these 2 days racing. We start off, Paul, with the Friday, where I personally think that the Friday is the day I'm actually most excited about, apart from maybe one runner that should potentially be going on Saturday. The Friday, we start off with the Lonsdale Cup, which is a Group 2. There's some really interesting runners in here. It is a longer distance race. It's run over 2 mile and half a furlong. And in here, you've got the old legs, the old boy. You've got Trawlerman, currently top in the market. You've got Illinois in there for the Aidan O'Brien team. Sweet William, bless him, sort of always the bridesmaid. You've also got Al Kareem, Shackleton, Coltrane giving it another go, Al Nayir and Dubai Future. I mean, I messed up at Royal Ascot and I didn't fancy Trawlerman. I now feel like I've got like FOMO and I don't want to not be involved when it feels like he's inevitably going to win again, because the horses couldn't get past him before. I don't see why they're going to now.
No, I agree with you. I mean, one of the lovely things about this race and about the cup races and the stamina horses is that these horses come back year after year and they develop a real following. And a lot of the race goers coming to York, they won't know many of the 2-year-olds. They'll be a little bit hazy maybe on some other horses. But as far as the stayers, they've been watching horses like Trawlerman and Sweet William and good old Coltrane doing battle time and again over the last 4 or 5 seasons even. So this is a race that's going to get a lot of people, roaring their particular fancy home. And on the form of the Ascot Gold Cup, Trawlerman looks pretty hard to beat, although, of course, he does have to give £3 here. He's giving £3 to Illinois, who he beat by 7 lengths, actually, at Ascot. And I think he's going to be very hard to stop because he is a horse who goes well on the ground. Illinois run well since. He was second to his stable companion Scandinavia, although I think the next were probably just a touch surprised that Scandinavia proved too good for him. Sweet William's an old favourite of mine, but I wouldn't be backing him to win because, and I don't think there'll be enough runners for the each way. But he'll probably finish third, second or third or something like that. I'm not sure Shackleton will run. Al Kareem doesn't look quite good enough. Coltrane's probably his best days are behind him, even though he's a real trier. So I'd just be focusing on the front 2, really, which is somebody that normally looks for big odds, isn't a usual trait of mine. But I can't see beyond these 2. And if I had to have a bet, even though he's a bit skinny at around 11 to 10, it'd be Trawlerman for me.
Yeah, I would massively agree. And I think what almost firms that up for me is the fact that Illinois was beaten by Scandinavia last time. I think if Illinois would have gone and won, I think I might have felt a little bit more confident that he might have been perhaps getting better through his races. But it almost like because of that result, it doesn't feel like he is. Like you say, I think perhaps the team were a bit surprised that Scandinavia won, but the market wasn't, because he was really well fancied.
Yes.
And I think, I think it was probably just a case of perhaps picking the wrong one there for Ryan Moore. But I do see Trawlerman winning this. I don't see, as I said at the start, I don't see a reason why these horses are going to get past him this time. He's a horse that just fights, and he's such a fantastic stayer. Even though I didn't back him, I absolutely loved him having his day in the sun at Ascot. And I think he's probably going to get it here again. He's got that good to firm ground. That's no concern to him. Al Kareem also does like good to firm ground, but obviously Al Kareem didn't beat Illinois when they met. So you kind of wonder really, if Illinois can't get past Trawlerman, can Al Kareem on that form? Probably not. So yeah, I don't see a world in which Trawlerman doesn't win. Like you say, he's a little skinny, but actually not too bad considering probably the degree to which I actually fancy him. I would probably take those odds and yeah, stick with Trawlerman for me. So we're agreed on the Lonsdale.
I think so. Just one point about Illinois, Izzy, just to mention that at the start of the season, he wasn't thought of as a cup horse. They only drafted him in and have turned him into a cup horse, really, because Kyprios was forced to retire. So I know Aidan is a master trainer. There's no two ways about it. But if Kyprios had still been around, I think Illinois would have been going, for mile and a half races, mile and six at the most, maybe not being asked to stretch out so much. So I've always had this feeling that maybe he isn't the most natural stayer, even though he's got such natural ability that he's still able to compete at Group 1 level over the extended trips. Whereas Trawlerman, for me, is an out-and-out thorough Group 1 stayer. So that's why I'd be on his side.
We then move on to the Gimcrack Stakes, which follows the Lonsdale. And we've got another Godolphin horse, this time though trained more typically by Charlie Appleby. At the top of the market, we've got Wise Approach. You've then got Do or Do Not. You've got Aidan O'Brien's Neolithic in there, Reciprocated, Life Plan, Rock on Thunder, Go Light, Comical Point, Irish Fighter, See the Power, and I love the name of this horse, Yorkshire Puds. 11 runners still remain. As I said at the start of the show, we don't have the full declarations. It looks like most of these 11, to be honest, though, are likely to run. Where does your eye go first in this field?
Well, my eye goes first to the prize money. £250,000. Terrific prize for the Gimcrack. And as you've hinted, Izzy, I think most of the owners would want to have a crack at it. Even if they've got a 50-1 chance, they'd want to have a go here. And another thing that's worth noting about the Gimcrack, it's a particularly special race because the winning owner is invited to make a speech at the big Gimcrack dinner. So if the favourite wins, which is Wise Approach, they might have a bit of a problem because, of course, Sheikh Mohammed is banned. He's not allowed into Britain these days because of his runs in with the law. So they'll probably have to ask the racing manager or somebody to make the speech if Wise Approach wins, because Sheikh Mohammed certainly won't be making it. This Wise Approach has won 2 of his 4 starts, and he was second at Ascot in the Norfolk Stakes. And then he won very convincingly in a listed race at Newbury. My only concern for Wise Approach is that his only below par, really below par effort was at York at the May meeting, where he was 11-8 favourite and he could only finish 4th behind First Legion. And as I've mentioned on our first video talking about this York Ebor fixture, there are some horses that just don't take to York for some reason. And so if I was asked whether I wanted to back or lay Wise Approach, it would be a lay for me. I wouldn't be backing him, even though he's already proven himself good, just because of the question mark about the track. As far as the other contenders, well, the best maiden in the country is undoubtedly Ed Walker's Do or Do Not. It's been placed in each of its last 4 starts, 3 of them in Group 2s, most recently close third to Zavateri in the Vintage at Goodwood, having been second to that horse at Newmarket in the July Stakes, and also second at Royal Ascot in the Country. I mean, this is a terrific juvenile, but he hasn't yet been lucky. Maybe Friday will be his day. And of the others, some very interesting horses. There's a bit of a buzz going around about this horse of Declan Carroll's called Life Plan, who's only had one run, and it won very impressively and in the manner of a really nice horse at Thirsk. It's by Cody Bear, who's a good sire of the juveniles. And of course, you wouldn't expect Declan Carroll to be amongst the trainers with a runner that could win the Gimcrack. But there is a proper buzz around this horse, and he's locally trained, and it would be a massive boost to his yard if that one were to do the business. So some interesting variables in the Gimcrack this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a big Charlie Appleby fan generally. He comes into this meeting in really good form, currently operating at 32% strike rate. So can't be ignored. Like you say, if Wise Approach is happy on the track, then I can't, that, like you said, that would be the only reason as to maybe why he doesn't win. There is one though that is very, very suited to the track, won a maiden stakes here, and that's Rafe Beckett's Egoli. That's one that kind of takes my eye a little bit. Shouldn't have any concerns with the ground. He has got a 6 against his name for his last run at Glorious Goodwood, but actually if you watch that race back, unfortunately it seemed he was just on the wrong side. He actually finished first in his group, but not in the race overall. So hopefully back at a track he clearly likes, Egoli could have a really good chance as well. I think best price you can get on him at the moment, obviously anti-post, is around 25 to 1. Ross Orion on board as well, stable jockeys, fantastic jockey Ross Orion. So I would give Egoli a really good chance in this. So that if our roles are reversed, I'm going for a big price.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Egola actually, because you picked up on exactly the point with this horse that he was drawn centre to far side at Goodwood, and they had no chance, did they? Because those next to the rail were 4 or 5 lengths clear. So you can put a line through that. And on his previous form, he does have a squeak, and as you pointed out, is it quite rightly, he's got the course and distance win, and he also handles fast ground, so he could be a proper lively outsider.
Yeah, if he's still declared, I can't see him being 25 to 1 somehow. No. So that might have to be a little anti-post couple of pounds for me there at that price. But we are going to move on to the Nunthorpe, which follows that, and a horse that we've mentioned actually a couple of times already in this podcast and the last podcast. And the top of the market, we have Lady Imam. This is a 5 furlong sprint race. We've got some really interesting horses here. You've got Arizona Blaze in here as well for the Ammo Racing team. Asphora is in here. Now, I mentioned her name when we looked at day 1 and day 2 because we spoke a little bit about the weather and Goodwood and what that really did to her chances today. And in the pre-parade ring, before Asphora ran and that deluge of rain came, Henry Dwyer was quite clear that really they were going to run her anyway, almost as a prep, but that York was the clear target. Even in the pre-parade, I was a bit annoyed because I'd already backed her. So hearing that it was almost going to be a prep race didn't fill me with confidence. But I think if there's a race that they're gunning to win here, it's Asphora's to take almost. She wants, if she's good enough, as many are asking. You've got Saida Darian with Ryan Moore again for Richard Hughes. You've got She's Quality with an entry here. JM Jungle, Glorious Goodwood winner, got an entry here. Obviously, also a course winner, JM Jungle. You've got Magira, Night Raider, Rumstar, Washington Heights, Frost at Dawn, Celadine, Montel, Balmoral Lady, Kurdos, Ain't Nobody, Spartan Arrow, Manakan, and Spicy Marg did have an entry, but it looks like Spicy Marg has come out, which is a bit of a shame because I actually backed Spicy Marg when they run at Goodwood the other day. So mainly because I also do like a Spicy Marg. But who do you like? I mean, it's very hard to ignore the form of the favourite, isn't it?
It is, but it's no easy task. This is a 2-year-old taking on the older horses. Now, 2-year-olds do have a a pretty good record in the race on the rare occasions that they have a go. I remember all the way back to the Pocket Rocket. Forgotten the real name now. Everybody knew her as the Pocket Rocket. Richard Hannon's filly, who was a real star, and Kingsgate native as well. I think one or two others have run terrific races in this. She's off 8 stone, and Jer Lyons has already got Joe Fanning booked. So what a moment this could be for Joe Fanning. Um, he's almost as old as me, isn't he? Joe Fanning. He's still riding terrifically well, and to ride a Group One winner in Britain for him would be a major achievement. Another one to add to his many. Whether she's good enough, I don't know. I mean, I think she's very, very fast, but she beat Argentine Tango last time out. It's a question of the weight for age. Is that going to be enough of a difference for this very young filly to beat some real hardened, classy sprinters? As for her, I take on board everything you say, Izzy, but I just don't see her being good enough to win this. I know Henry Dwyer's got this target on the race, and he's got Oisin Murphy on board again. I just can't see it myself. Arizona Blaze is going great guns for Adrian Murray, who's having a brilliant run of form at the moment and beaten Gira really quite easily at the Curragh last time out. This is one of those races, and it does happen not infrequently in the Nunthorpe where you get shocks. Remember, we've had remember the first ever Group One to be won by a lady rider. Alex Greaves won here on a big prize winner back in the day. We had a 40-1 shot Alpha Delfini won in 2018. 28-1 Live in the Dream just a couple of years ago. So shocks do happen, and at bigger prices, there are a couple I just want you to take a look at. One of them is Frost at Dawn, who likes fast ground. She's really quick, and on her penultimate start, she only got beaten a neck in the old King Stand Stakes, the Group One at Royal Ascot, the King Charles, and she's in at 25-1 at the moment for William Knight, who's already booked Mikhail Barcelona, who was second on her at Ascot. She was fourth to JM Jungle, but it was the soft ground there, and she wouldn't have really liked that. So I think Frost at Dawn is one who could go very well. And I noticed that they supplemented Rumstar, Johnny Portman's runner, getting better and better. It's improved this season. It won, beating She's Quality at Sandown in the Coral Charge, and then things didn't quite pan out for it at the Curragh last time out. So I'm expecting a little bit of a surprise here because I can't get too excited about any of those in single figures here. So I'll be giving it some very serious consideration for my clients that Out in Front, the subscription service, where I'll be really having a very, very in-depth look at this race.
I suppose the only thing you can't ignore with regards to Lady Iman is that weight. Only carrying 8 stone. I mean, that is absolutely huge, and potentially why Paul 2-year-olds have a good record in the race when they run, because they get such a massive weight allowance. Like you say, I've been with Asphora every single time she's run, so I'll probably have a heart bet on her, but I am starting to question whether she is good enough to take this. But one that I didn't back last time, but usually do, is JM Jungle. I was really, really impressed. And I think when you look at JM Jungle's form figures, never out of the first 3, just absolutely so consistent. In what is probably quite a weak sprinting division, again, he could take advantage here. I wouldn't rule him out. So I think at the prices, I probably would land on JM Jungle with a heart saver on Asphora, because if she picks her feet up and goes for it, I'm not having her go past the post and I'm not on. So that's probably the way I would look at it. But Ammo Racing have started to have a few winners more recently. But yeah, I'm not really fancying Arizona Blaze to take this, despite the fact that Adrian Murray is currently on about a 25% strike rate. But I'm probably going to stick with old JM Jungle for me.
Well, JM Jungle has proved a point really about the sprinters, as you said. It's not the hottest division. And
No.
It's always been the case that high-class handicappers can often make the transition to group sprints quite successfully, as we've seen already this season with Jim Goldie's horse, who blasted home at Royal Ascot, American Affair. So JM Jungle certainly seems to be improving, and he's also got very good course form as well. He's always run well at York, so he's 12 to 1 at the moment when the time we're recording this preview. So going to be a little bit short, I'm sure, once the final decks come through. But I think each way he'd give you a run for your money. But I'd still be looking maybe at a couple of even bigger price ones to make a bob or two on this race.
So then we start to move into taking a little look at a couple of races on the Saturday. Again, as we've mentioned earlier in the show, it should be a beautiful sunny day, and there's one horse in particular that I've got my eye on, and as I've mentioned a couple of times before, Paul, I love a horse that I want to come back and take vengeance, and there's no horse that I want to do more than that is Rosalien. So obviously Rosalien was meant to run a couple of weeks ago in France, but was pulled out due to a stone bruise on his foot. It was revealed quite quickly by Richard Hannon that the target would then switch to the City of York Stakes, a Group 1 run over 7 furlongs. So it's unsurprising that Rosalien currently heads the market. We've then got Never So Brave, Maranoa Charlie, you've got Cosmic Year with an entry here for Juddmonte, you've got Exactly for the Aidan O'Brien team, Lake Forest in pitching again for William Haggas. Audience, obviously, hopefully he does no more kicking down at the start after he injured Kinross at Goodwood. You've then got that surprise winner Quirat, who has been supplemented for this race in here. You've also got ever consistent, bless him, Quinault in here. Seagulls 11, another that's been supplemented here. 10 Bob Tony, Ides of March, and Anaf. So obviously the time recording, we've got 13 runners. This field could cut up ever so slightly, but one I really hope does run is Rosalien, as long as his foot is none the worse. And I just want him to take revenge. I can't see elsewhere in the race. I think obviously Quirat's going to go off like a rocket and hope that no one catches him again. But Rosalien for me, who are you looking at in this one?
He's a good favourite, I think, is Rosalien. If he's okay, if that stone bruise has been put behind him very quickly and he's not missed too much work, because first of all, this is a big coup for York Racecourse. For years, as long as I can remember, British racing has been looking to try and establish a Group 1 race over 7 furlongs. We haven't had one. They've had to go, to France for the Group 1 there on Arcday, the 7 furlong race. And now we've got this one. So it's a great opportunity for those horses, maybe that don't quite get a mile, or for those sprinters over 6 that can stretch it out, to step up for some big prize money with £600,000. And credit as well to Sky Bet, who of course sponsor the meeting, for putting up such a brilliant prize. And Rosalien deserves a big win, doesn't he? He just got beaten by a hair's breadth in the Queen Anne when Docklands shocked everybody. And then he got done again by a shock winner in Quirat that nobody saw coming. So he's been a bit of an unlucky horse. He's very, very classy. And if things fall right for him, he should be good enough, I would think. I suppose it's dangerous to just completely rule out Quirat building on what he produced at Goodwood. That was a huge step forward. Of course, he got the run of the race. They gave him too much rope. But is he going to go off in front and blast away? Or now they've got a Group 1 winner, are they going to ride him a little bit differently on his merits, so to speak? It could be really interesting to see how Quirat goes. And of course, Juddmonte have also got Cosmic Year, who was second in the Irish Guineas, but has disappointed both times since then and is a bit of a risky proposition. This French horse is interesting, Maranoa Charlie, trained by Christopher Head. Just second in a Group 1 at Deauville on pretty soft ground in the Prix Jean Prat a month and a half ago. And he runs for the Bond family, Reg Bond, who's had all those good horses over the years. And they've been buying, his estate have been buying much better quality horses in the last few years. So that's an interesting runner for France. And then Never So Brave, we spoke earlier about horses coming through the handicap grades. He won at Royal Ascot, taking the Buckingham Palace handicap, and then he followed up back at Ascot in the Summer Mile, a Group 2. Is he going to prove as effective at York? we shall see. I think it's a really interesting race. Rosalines certainly the one to beat, but I wouldn't rule out Quirat going really well. And also a quick word about Lake Forest, whose win in Australia last November was sensational, beating Lazat. Coming back to form, it's taken a while, but his second to witness stand last time out was a big step back in the right direction. More needed, but of course he runs in the colours of famous gambler investor Tony Bloom for William Haggis, and he doesn't put too many feet wrong, so to speak. So fascinating race.
Ignore William Haggis runners at your peril at York this week. One thing I will say with regards to Quirat is if you actually look at Quirat's form now, he's had 4 wins in his racing career. 3 of those have come at Goodwood. So Justin, as we've been saying that, you know, there are many horses that like York, I do wonder whether but yeah, you certainly can't rule him out. Like you say, you'd imagine that Sean Levy in particular is not going to let Quirat get away this time. The only thing he's got to obviously be careful of is that he doesn't do of his own admission what he did last time, which is not necessarily focus on what could be coming. In the last race, he was focusing so much on where Field of Gold was going to come from that he didn't concentrate on Quirat. He needs to make sure here that he doesn't focus so much on Quirat that he forgets that there could be some horses that are going to come from behind him this time. But I would love nothing more than to see Rosalien get the win here. Rosalien has to get that win this season. As you mentioned, £377,000 to the winner in this race, and no one would deserve that more than Rosalien. So big bag of carrots, hopefully, and a win there. We're now going to move on, Paul, to the race that the whole festival is named after, and that is the Ebor Handicap. Now, at the time of recording, we have 47 runners in the field, so I'm not going to go through them all because only 22 of them can actually run. We feel generally that, you know, the first kind of 22 entered are very much likely to take their place. But there's a massive buzz about one trainer in particular gunning for this race, and that is Willie Mullins.
He did it 2 years ago in this race with Absurd. And if you watch the replay of last year's race won by Magical Zoe, clearly the most unlucky horse in the race was Hip Hop de Loire, who finished like a train, having struggled to get a run, and then he really steamed home. And he's been trained with this race in mind since, and the bookies are very aware of that. He won a little race at Galway, a maiden hurdle, just to keep him ticking over 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's going to be spot on, and they've got Colin Keane. But he's got his fair share of weight with 9 stone 10. He's clear favourite. Only 7-2 is the best odds you can get at the time of us recording this before the start of the meeting. I mean, 7-2 in what is still a 47 runner race. I mean, it's remarkable, but the bookies they've taken bombs for this horse already, and they're not prepared to stick their head above the parapet just at the moment. But the other runner, Ethical Diamond, as you pointed out, he won easily at Ascot. He has gone up £8. That's going to make life that little bit tougher, and he's got to go an extra 2 furlongs as well here. But he's clearly a horse who's got a lot of ability. But this race is, I mean, it's so hot, really. I've noted a few that you really should take a look at. French Master for the Gosdens, who was 5th in the Goodwood Cup last time out, Group 1, back in a handicap here. I mean, he's got top weight, but you think he'd go very well for the Gosdens. Shadow Dance, lovely grey. We've been talking about a few greys in this broadcast, but Shadow Dance is a lovely grey for Roger Varian, and SDS is on board. And he actually won at this meeting last year. He won the 1.5 mile handicap, the Sky Bet Heritage Handicap. So, you know, he likes the track this time of year, and he's only had one run actually so far this season. That was at Goodwood, which wouldn't have suited him. It was only over 1.25 miles, wrong trip. So I think Shadow Dance is being teed up for a big effort. Ascending is on a 4-timer. He won the Ascot Stakes last time out, over 2.5 miles, admittedly, but he's got the pace to win over 1.5 miles the time before, and he represents Henry de Bromhead, who of course won it last year, this race. loads of other horses with chances, including Kihava, who's placed in this race in the past. It's going to be an absolute cracker. At this point, if I was to be offered a free bet, I think I'd be betting each way Shadow Dance, because I think this horse has been teed up for this race as well, and because Hip Hop de Loire is such a short price, I wouldn't be getting involved. It's going to be a great race, and remember, this is Europe's richest middle distance handicap, so it's a major, major contest.
So hopefully we've found you a few winners across the 4 days of York's Ebor Festival, or at least a semblance of one anyway. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to tune in again next time.